This podcast is dedicated to the dynamic youth of today who are breaking boundaries, challenging norms, and redefining what it means to be a force for positive change in the world. In every episode, we will delve into the narratives, experiences, and wisdom of exceptional individuals who are both empowering and inspiring young people, and young individuals who are making significant strides across a range of fields, including technology, the arts, activism, and entrepreneurship. We believe that the future is in the hands of our generation, and together we'll explore ideas, innovations, and inspirations that are shaping a brighter tomorrow. So, whether you're a trailblazer yourself, change makers, or simply looking for a dose of motivation, you're in the right place. Find Your Voice is not just a podcast, it's a movement. Let's dream big, think bold, and act now. Get ready to be inspired because the future starts now. Welcome to Find Your Voice. Everyone has dreams. If you guys have dreams and want to be change makers, please join the FYV network. Scan the QR code presented on the screen to join the network. My name's Elijah. I'm a youth ambassador for Southend YMCA and a resident there too, and I'll be hosting this podcast. You're Tom. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
I am Tom. Don't pretend you don't know me. You know me well. So I'm Tom. I'm a music tutor at the Southend YMCA. We're here in the studio right now. This will be where this Find Your Voice podcast is broadcast from every episode. So I've been working here for about 7 years across multiple YMCA projects, including youth clubs and Team YP, which is another youth activities program that we used to run. I've been playing music for about 20 years, quite a long time. Mainly guitar. Guitar was my first instrument. Yeah. But since I've been working here, I've sort of branched out to teaching drums, keyboards, production, recording, loads of different stuff. Basically, just to be able to cater to whoever walks in our studio and says, "I'd like to do that." It's helpful for me to be able to just pick up on that and just grab it and go, "Cool, let's do it. Yeah. Let's do it now."
So you said guitar was what you started with. Then was that like a gift that you had when you were a child, or how did you start?
Yeah, good question. My dad had lots of guitars in the loft, just like collecting dust, hiding up there. I actually wanted to play the drums first, but I was swiftly told, no, you're not allowed a drum kit. So he moved quickly on to, we've got guitars in the loft. So I just started to take an interest in music after sort of seeing certain music videos and things on TV. I was into music before I started playing guitar or learning guitar, but it wasn't really until I got hooked on, I guess, rock music, reeled me in after seeing certain music videos and things, and then asked about the drums, and that was a no. Guitars came down out of the loft, and it was sort of something that I sort of picked up on quite quickly. I taught myself for quite a long time. I did have some lessons eventually, but the guitar was kind of just presented to me. I got really into like Jimi Hendrix and stuff like that. Nice. Was seeing someone get up on stage with a guitar singing, and it just became something that I wanted to do myself. So I've been in bands since I was about 14, doing all different things in public, and being quite used to kind of performing in public and things like that. So guitar. Although I play less guitar now than I used to. I on the drum kit as much.
You're quite multi-skilled now, aren't you?
I'm on the drum kit as much as is possible when I'm here, just because it's fun. My own kind of musical background is a very informal one, a very teach yourself, listen, rather than relying on sort of written music.
So no script. Sort of.
Improvising, trying to work out how to teach somebody how to do something. So prior to doing that, I was teaching in schools and things in as you can imagine, a much more formal kind of setting. There were set things that you would teach. And really, that first day that I did here as a trial was really eye-opening, because it was trying to figure out how do I get kids to learn music without any books, because the nature of it was that those kids I was working with that day wouldn't be receptive to reading books and learning from anything involving books. You know, it is a turn off for some people, especially those that don't get on in school.
Well, I think there's sort of visual learners, like people that can learn just from seeing other people do it, and then others, if they struggle doing that, they learn more from actually just doing it.
Yeah, sure.
So it sounds like that was a very good way of reaching out to them and trying to put their energy to something else.
Yeah, absolutely. Just that, like I say, from the first moment working in here, I was working with kids who, you know, it was instantly obvious that they needed to be taught in a sort of a different way, an alternative way.
Yeah.
And that was interesting to me. That was new to me, because I come from a background of teaching myself. It was interesting for me to put books away and put all the stuff that I used to use in schools away, and just go back to put your finger here, try this, try that. And if it didn't work, I'd be thinking, oh, cool. So they've not really understanding how I'm instructing them right now. So how do I find a different way, a different angle on it, and then it might click in their head and go, oh, cool, I understand what you mean now.
So like constant problem solving, then trying to figure out new solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like just improvising the whole way, and sort of, so I did that session, really enjoyed it. I learned a lot from the kids that come in here to do, whether it's instrument tuition or recording or production. They might say to me, oh, I really like this, and it might be stuff that I'm not familiar with myself, but in being exposed to that music, I then am growing greater knowledge all the time of what's kind of current and what's popular. So yeah, you're always learning, you're always kind of soaking up stuff, and you're always using that to pass on to the youngsters that come in here to do some work. So yeah, it's great.
So I can imagine it must be quite rewarding seeing someone sort of develop from maybe someone that's never touched an instrument and trying to help them find a passion and hone in onto something that they really enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. I've worked with young people who've got conditions like dyspraxia, which one of the common traits there is around a lack of bodily coordination.
So it's like cognitive function, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's difficult for somebody, for example, to learn the drums, or it could be considered more difficult for someone with dyspraxia to learn the drums because they have that preordained condition.
Of course.
So when you are able to get underway with work such as that, which I have done in here, it is really rewarding. And I mean, one of the biggest factors there is kind of having young people who say, oh no, I just didn't think I could do this. Like, it doesn't necessarily always put people off if they have, they have some sort of disadvantage in a certain area. It doesn't necessarily mean that they won't try it. Sometimes it depends how kind of how confident the person is, or how willing they are to have a go. And again, that's encouraging. It's encouraging, on one hand, seeing someone successfully do something that they wanted to do or achieve, but it's also, on the other side of it, it's great when you get youngsters come in and they don't actually really know what they want to do yet. And having the kind of capability of multiple instruments and multiple different music activities here, obviously they 99% of the time leave having picked up the guitar or the bass or production or something that they want to kind of pursue outside of our sessions here and take with them. That's super rewarding. I think that because music is such a passion for me, and I know how much it's kind of inspired me and kind of led me down different paths in my life, it's great to think that there might be someone walking in here not knowing what they want to do, walking out with a new skill, and then they can go and join a band. They can go and learn how to be a sound tech out on tour with somebody. There's loads of different things that they could and hopefully will be doing, and it's really cool to be a part of that sort of journey for them.
What do you think it is about music can have such a good impact on someone?
I think it's really good for building confidence. Generally, I think it's really good when you kind of skill yourself musically to a certain point, and then you can collaborate with other people. That's a complete game changer, because not only is it like upskilling you even further, it's such a social thing to do as well.
100%, yeah.
I mean, a lot of my existing friends that I've had for a long time. It's because of music and because of a mutual love initially of music and playing in bands together and things like that. It definitely brings people together. I think also the nature of being someone who maybe is naturally quite shy or reclusive or finds it hard to socialise. I think that a lot of people are able to use music and learning an instrument to kind of combat that feeling. And it's also sort of the case that if you can get in a room with other people, a lot of the time you work out that actually lots of these youngsters feel the same about life in general, and actually that connects them. It does the complete opposite of, isolating them. So it's actually putting them in a room with other people who have mutual interests and kind of, we have people that come to our youth clubs and different projects and say, I don't really have any friends who play music, or, no one's willing to give it a go and no one's really bothered. And then, our projects sort of enable people to come together and kind of collaborate together, learn together, work together, communicate, socialise. So there's all these kind of aspects that go along with it. On the surface, it is very much, come along and have fun doing something musical, but there is a lot more, under the surface that that initial contact can lead to.
Very good at building bridges then.
Yeah, definitely. Also, when we teach songwriting as well. We do songwriting in one-to-ones, and we also do workshops and things in the studio and outside of the studio also. And again, if you can learn to kind of express yourself through writing lyrics, writing music, it's such a good outlet for people. If music is your passion, that's probably going to be the main way that you express yourself in your life. And again, having the kind of confidence to express yourself in your life, even if it's just through music initially, I really think it's got so many benefits, and a lot of the time it can lead to you expressing yourself in other ways and just building more confidence generally for yourself, so that you can go out and have an opinion and have something to say and feel like you contribute something to your community, to your society, whatever it is. So it's like little things growing into big things.
It gives people purpose in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So what strategies would you say you found to be like the most effective with sort of engaging with the youth, teaching them instruments or how to sing?
I think initially I would say actually the first point is listening to them. Mm-hmm. So what do they like? Why do they like it? Yeah. Asking those questions and kind of delve into what it is they would like to do, or even what is it they would like to do but don't think they could do. Mm-hmm. All of those sorts of things, and basically from there kind of breaking music down into something that feels very achievable, simplifying, not necessarily simplifying something so that it's not being done properly, but simplifying something to the point where it's understandable to anyone. Yeah. Whether it be like you're learning a drum beat, the basis of simple drum beats is you counting to 4 or counting to 8. Things like that, breaking things down in a simple enough way that even someone who's never had a go before could wrap their heads around it. Yeah. That I would say is key, because otherwise music and other different forms of art feel elitist. They feel like that's for people who have got money, that's for people who are clever, things like that. And I think the more that you can break down the barriers in terms of people's perception of how hard it is, or who should be playing the piano and who should be playing the drums, you can break down all those barriers. It leaves people feeling like they can have a go at anything. Making them feel comfortable as well, to the point where they could, have a go at something else. Singing, they might think, I've got a terrible voice, I can't sing. Yeah, might not be that. Actually, you might be really good at something else as well. So providing alternative kind of paths for people as well, I think is quite good. I would say just listen to what they want to do. Simplifying music so it doesn't feel unreachable. Obviously you can teach people harder things later once they've picked up the basics, but just making it feel, music doesn't have to be books and notation and sight reading, and it doesn't have to be that. And the more you can kind of relay that to young people, it makes it feel reachable, obtainable, and something that they can do and achieve. And I think that's definitely a way to hook people in, get people interested.
Yeah, it's nice to be reminded that music's for everyone and not just for like an elite few. Yeah. So, how important would you say it is for young people to engage in community-based musical activities, and how would you say it contributes to their sort of growth and development?
So again, always the first thing that springs to mind is a social element. So the moment that you become a guitarist in a young local band versus a young guitarist who just plays at home, you instantly open the door to the social element, like as I mentioned earlier. So I think, again, if you're thinking about personal growth, I think a lot of people think about what they're doing and what they're achieving and what is measurable into, like, what can people see that I'm doing. Obviously, you learning guitar at home, I don't know, as a young person, your parents might hear what you're doing and go, oh, he's like, I didn't realise he could play that or do that. Whereas I think when you get when you start venturing out into the community, you're much more able to see where you fit, what you're adding. Whereas if you just play drums at home, you don't necessarily get a feel for what you're adding to the community, or to a more of like a social context, I guess.
Definitely.
I would say also developing the confidence whereby you could turn up to a community event. Say it would be like a workshop that we do here. When we do workshops, we tend to get a lot of present and past project participants coming along. Wow, that was a lot of P's. But we also get, a few people who have just heard about the project on Instagram or Facebook, or someone just mentioned it to them. And actually, I give a lot of props to those who can just turn up to somewhere completely new, then knowing that they're not going to know anybody, but they've sort of got the confidence and the kind of enough interest to get them in the door in the first place. And again, that's great for young people to be able to say, like, I did that, because it is hard. Like I find it difficult turning up to things where I know I'm not going to know anyone. I don't know if I'm going to feel awkward or comfortable, or what I might feel when I get there. So again, that's another non-musical milestone that is sort of brought out of turning up to a music event of some kind. Also, if you get out into the community and you go to gigs, even if you are a musician and you want to be in a band and you don't have any bandmates, that's a great way to go out and, go and if you can chat to people or talk to people, you sort of naturally meet people who are like-minded at events that, you go to a rock gig, you're going to meet fans of rock music and probably quite a lot of people who play instruments. So again, another reason to get out there in your community and kind of look for those situations that you aspire to be in. You want to be that band on stage, cool, go to their gig and talk to other people, talk to the band if you can, that sort of thing is always advisable.
How can learning and participating in music help develop life skills such as discipline, teamwork and resilience for young people? So
having the kind of making a commitment to turn up to something regularly, I think is really good, because when you're like school age, you don't necessarily have responsibilities and commitments to show up to each week or regularly. So one of the really good things working here at the studio and on the music project are that we regularly work with people who actually find that quite difficult, find it really difficult to commit to doing something and be on time and just be somewhere regularly to do something positive for themselves. I think it's really important because, again, without the kind of it's great having obviously a musical incentive to go somewhere because it's something that you want to do, but also, again, it's something that with practice it becomes a habit. So if you can build a habit of being on time, of committing to something, of showing up, of saying you're going to go and actually going every time, again, that can have, you know, a really big impact on other things within people's lives. So I've worked with lots of young people who've suffered with anxiety, to the point where they find it really hard to hold down a job. They find it hard to, I don't know, just get out to do normal things.
Yeah.
And actually just having something like our project to turn up to can be like a small milestone in terms of, you know, they've actually successfully turned up 12 weeks on a row, or if they couldn't make it, they've called us and they've let us know rather than just avoided the situation completely. That again is something that it's a practice. I believe it's like a practice kind of thing. So the more that you commit and you take responsibility for whether you're going to go to something or not, the more you practice that, the more you're going to get out of it, because you're turning up to the thing that you want to do anyway, but you're also learning that it is possible for you to go and do that thing regularly.
So would you be able to share any memorable stories of a child or young person whose life was significantly impacted by the project and music?
Yeah, so I used to work with, again, I'll use the young man. I won't name names, obviously, but I worked with a young, I think he was 16-year-old, that's right. This was going back quite a few years, and he had dyspraxia, so he found it very hard to do certain things, play football, anything that involved like arms and legs, doing different things. But again, he came in, wanted to do the drums, found it really difficult at first, to the point of, I don't know if I want to come back. But I thought he could do it, so I just thought it might take a bit more time, me, you know, finding a new way to explain how to do something, how to play a specific beat or what to do in what order. So had to play around with a few things while they were here. Kind of got a few things down, but again, found it difficult. And weeks and weeks went by, and they were getting really disheartened by the fact that they weren't progressing at the pace that they would like to have been.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the situations where, think about what I'm doing, what am I teaching, how's this working? And then when something wasn't working, kind of scrap it, just keep trying, keep doing it, keep looking for some way of relaying the information you need to relay, so that they will see the progress they want to see. So we just kept going, kept trying different things, tried having the drum kit completely the other way around, set up for left hand, right, because it was just, I'm not sure what's going on here. I don't know why it's feeling particularly difficult.
Yeah.
But obviously, youngster had dyspraxia, which was the key thing really to, I've got a history of not being able to do things very well. I'm a bit clumsy, I'm tripping over my own feet, I'm doing, things that I find annoying, but it's just part of me.
Just bad hand-eye coordination.
Yeah, just like a lack of coordination and that sort of thing. So eventually we found kind of a set of songs that were manageable. We learnt like Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes. I think it was Back in Black by AC/DC. Kind of like some kind of straight up kind of rock songs on the drums. Eventually we got to the point where this young man could play like 4 songs back to back. And it was almost like he'd forgotten completely about how much hard work he found it for the first sort of 2 months.
Yeah.
So it was just that persevering, continual rethinking about how I'm teaching this young person. And he got a drum kit in his garage at home, I think about 4 weeks before his 12 sessions here were up. That's what we usually do. I mean, usually is round about number is 12 for sessions that we do on one-to-one here. So he got a drum kit at home, he's practicing at home. His mum was saying, I can't believe that he can do it, like he's doing it. And that's why we found him a drum kit, like a second-hand drum kit to go in the garage. And he left here on his sort of 12th session, going off to college, feeling very optimistic about lots of other things in his life as well. And also kept up the drums. I'm pretty sure he still plays drums now.
Wow.
It makes his own stuff up, just doing things that he really didn't ever think he could do. He also did some work experience here as well, which built up his confidence in a completely different way. That's one that sticks in my mind as somebody who really didn't think they had it in them, but actually it was just keep going, a little bit more. You're almost there. Suddenly you break through this like invisible barrier of I'm there, and I don't remember the struggle anymore, and that's awesome. Like it's super cool.
Well, it sounds like it can definitely have a like quite a profound effect on people. The thing is, it's almost like a butterfly effect, isn't it? So like once one of those barriers are down, then it's very easy to bypass other ones too.
Yeah, sure. It's like anything, like learning that actually I didn't think I could do that, and I could.
Yeah.
If you take away the musical context, it's just something that you've come across in your life that you didn't think you could do. And
a lot of
actually
it is just mental barriers rather than physical ones, and it's just getting the willpower to go past it, isn't it?
Yeah, and also not being afraid to like ask for a bit of help with this, saying being honest and being confident enough to say, I don't really understand this thing here, and I feel like it's tripping me up and holding me back a little bit. Having that feeling, having the confidence and the feeling that you could actually say, I need a bit of help with this, I don't really understand that, and not feeling like you're stupid or there's any shame related to that, because that definitely holds people back. That's what stops people from even trying at all in the first place a lot of the time. And if you can kind of wipe away that preconceived idea that like I can't do this before you've even tried, you can wipe that away, get rid of that notion. It's like the difference between starting at all or not, which obviously is, we all start somewhere. Jimi Hendrix started somewhere, mentioned him earlier.
Yeah.
And the reality is that even people who go on to be like virtuosos at certain things, certain skills, they didn't start that way at all. It's just they had the kind of confidence to give it a go, just to get started on their journey, basically.
Yeah, it sounds like you've sort of brought humanity back in. Sort of a lot of people, especially with social media, you see someone doing something so amazing, you think, well, there's no way that's ever achievable. But it sounds like you've come up with a brilliant way of sort of bringing small little steps to slowly achieve a goal. You might not necessarily be quite as good as, or they might not become as good as what they've seen, but the fact that they can even do any of it sounds amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be accessible for everybody. I think that's like one of the main messages that we relay here at the YMCA, is that you should, whoever you are, you should be able to A, have a go, and B, believe that actually if you really want to do something or achieve something, that you might need a bit of help, but you can do it.
And even if they don't, they just had fun along the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But everything takes time and patience and perseverance, really.
Yeah. So how would you say someone with like ADHD or dyslexia, what sort of methods would you use to try and help them? Because you mentioned dyspraxia, but I can imagine ADHD might be quite a hard one to deal with if they struggle focusing on something.
Yeah.
Say you've got someone that comes in, they think they want to learn bass, and then they decide they want to learn drums or guitar. What do you do to sort of try and help them become good at something instead of just playing about with everything?
Yeah, I would say, something that I've had my eyes open to a little bit recently was actually the fact that some people with ADHD actually, once they find what it is that they like, or something that satisfies something in them, actually they can focus really well. And I think that's a message that's missed a lot of the time. You hear about, children with ADHD who can't focus on anything.
Yeah.
And actually, if you can find what it is they really like, actually they will focus well, if not better than somebody without ADHD, because there's something about that specific thing that reels them in and holds their attention.
Like hyper-focus in a way then.
Yeah. I mean, it's a weird one, because obviously you don't want children becoming hyper-focused on something and it's not actually of benefit to them, or it's distracting them from actually certain things that they should be doing.
Of course.
But so sort of with that in mind, if you have like we know a young drummer who is 13 and he has ADHD, and when he's playing the drums, he can play drums for hours. no distraction.
Wow.
Obviously, it's doing something for him and for his brain that enables him to stay there doing that activity for a long time, with no view to doing anything else, unless he's forced to.
Yeah.
Which is obviously good, and that will aid his learning. He will keep upskilling himself on the drums very quickly because he's also constantly looking for something new to play. So he's kind of maybe focusing a lot, however you want to put it, on a specific thing like the drums, but actually then you go, cool, so I'm on the drums, I'm playing the drums, this holds my attention, and there's so many things I could do, there's so many songs I could learn, there's so many techniques I could learn, and so that's where that comes into it. So if we are working on something here, the minute that we stumble across something, okay, do you know how to do this? No. Cool. So let's have a quick look. And again, using the kind of insight that we've got into different young people, we know not to force something if it's not working, if it's not being responded to well. Mm-hmm. So if in that situation we are working on drum part, he starts to get distracted, we'll move on. So a key thing for me in that situation is not to linger or dwell on something that I know is not holding their attention. We can move on to something else and we can come back to it. So if you had a set of things, you had a set of songs or sections of songs or techniques that you were learning, I would chop and change quite quickly. And if it was something where actually he was sitting there and he kept trying to play this thing over and over and over and over again, I would let that happen until the point where I felt, and this goes for non-ADHD, there is a point where I think practicing the same thing over and over again can hinder you. I think that you can get to a point where you actually hinder your own progress by through the repetition. But another thing that I would do is more of a physical tip. So if I had someone, for example, who wanted to learn the bass guitar or guitar, for example, and actually found it very hard to be still, solid, who found it very hard to be still, to sit and just play, I would say, cool, let's get a strap on that guitar. You're going to get it high enough that you can play it, and we will move around. You will walk around while you're trying to do the thing. So you're kind of combining just different ideas. So you're still focusing on the thing that you want to do, which is bass. You told me that. We'll teach you something that's achievable, but you'll do it while you're standing up, or you're walking around, or you're walking in circles, or whatever it might be. But really, I think it comes down to just being a person, taking away the idea actually that I'm a music tutor when I'm here, and just being curious about, okay, cool, so we've got a referral in from someone and they're autistic. Yeah. So there was a first time when I had an autistic young person in here, and I hadn't been necessarily trained on that. I'd been advised, I'd read a few things, but it's very much, when you work with different what are called neurodivergencies, and people who are neurodivergent, you might think you know what you're going to see when they turn up, but it might be completely different, and therefore how you go about your session completely has to change, or might have to completely change. Just being adaptable, but just first being a human, being a human being to them and treating them like a human being is the kind of thing that I always bring myself back to, and the music comes after that. The music kind of follows that work that I do initially with them.
Yeah, it sounds incredibly therapeutic.
No, it is.
Let's see what else we've got. What advice would you give to parents and educators who want to incorporate music into the lives of children and young people they work with?
I would say there are a couple of kind of factors before you even get there. I would say it's interesting because obviously we work with a lot of young people. We also communicate and work with a lot of parents and caregivers, that sort of thing. So the first thing that I would say is that if your child responds negatively to doing any musical activity, probably the worst thing initially to do is to kind of force it or press the issue. So I would say if your child has a curiosity about music, or you know, they're always singing, or they always love picking out movies that have songs in them and they love that. Just incorporating that into their routine encourages them to explore. So it encourages them to explore, it encourages them to express themselves in that way and to be confident enough to sing something.
So positive reinforcement then.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So encouraging them where they've shown interest, I think, is like paramount. I mean, without being given like, guitars out of the loft, that was my moment, was them coming down and me going, oh, this is actually really cool. Without that moment, I would be on a completely different path, and that could be good or bad. Who knows? I will never know that. But without that kind of support, it would be difficult, I think, to sustain something. I mean, it really depends how much the child is into music or the singing or whatever activity it might be. But yeah, my advice would be to encourage them, to not shut them away if they're learning to do something. I know it might be difficult when they're trying to play guitar on an out of tune guitar that isn't set up very well, and it costs a tenner out of, off eBay or whatever. But I think the message that a child will get from being shut away and cool, if you want to, you can do that. That's one thing. It's like, cool, you can do that, and we'll help you do that. Yeah. But the other thing is to not shut them away while they're doing that, if you can avoid it, because that obviously is mixing messages. That's like, yes, we love that you're doing that, but go and do it somewhere else, which is obviously confusing for a young person to kind of experience that. So just being supportive, setting rules. So no playing guitar really late at night obviously is acceptable. Like you can't say, oh well, yeah, here's a drum kit, go and play it. You can play it whenever you want. There is a limit to the amount of support that you can give, because you have to be considerate of other people and other factors, and there are other things going on as well. I used to work on a project, another YMCA project called not Bump to Breast, called Umbilical Chords, and it was a early years music project, and that was all about having a weekly group that parents, new parents, could bring their 0 to 2 year olds along to. We could sing, we could learn ukulele, kids could like bash about on instruments, on drums, and all sorts of things like that. Again, to encourage the curiosity. I just think that's the best thing that you can do, is encourage them to, keep trying different things. I guess the same could be said about all different things in a child's life. It's, a lot of the time as an adult, I can go out and, find this to have a go at or that to have a go at, whereas it's not that easy for youngsters. So you are the gateway to them being able to participate in something or not, or try something or not a lot of the time. That would be my advice. Just to let them be curious and encourage it.
How do you envision the role of music in shaping the lives of the next generation of children and young people?
I think, again, something that's really important is for people to feel like they have options, for people to feel like they're not pigeonholed in one thing. I think that knowing through having done lots of different things musically, that we live in an age where there's an excess of music. Now you have streaming platforms, and anybody can, sign up to a distributor for online, and they can get their music on Spotify. Anyone can almost do anything. Yeah. So it's really, for us, it's working out how do we help people stand out from the crowd, knowing that certain things are really saturated and really oversubscribed to. So somebody, for example, who wants to release music, you need to know so many things. So you want to write a really good song or a really good collection of songs. You then need to record those songs and produce those songs and arrange those songs. You then need to have those songs mastered. You then need to have your artwork created. You then need to have, if you want to, a PR plan to release your music. There are so many things. So you want photos, promo photos done. So you kind of have to wear so many hats to be a musician. So unless you're very lucky and you are in Queen, and that is your job. A lot of musicians, even on the professional level, are still doing other jobs, other side work. It might be that they, write music here or there, they do songwriting with other people. Kind of, the need for flexibility is so key that, again, that goes back to why when we get in here, we try to kind of broaden people's minds on what it is they are capable, what they can do, what they might like to do in the future as well. What's their plan B? What's their plan C? Knowing that if they want to go into a career in music, they do unfortunately have to learn lots of different skills. Some, like a lot of them aren't musical as well. So again, the more you can tie things together, so the tying together of things and theming things up is really important, because otherwise it's hard to see what the benefit is. So if you've got a young person who's like, why do I need to know about how to take band photos? Because if you know what you want, you will get something that's different to somebody else. And you need to know how you want to present yourself, because you can present yourself better than anyone else can. So that new generation of musicians has a lot of work to do, essentially, because if whatever it is they want to do, they do have to branch out into lots of different roles, take off their musician hat and wear different hats like all the time just to get certain things done, whether it be release music or try and get your song on an advert or on TV or whatever it might be. Just trying to teach flexibility.
Well, I think the industry is largely sort of fueled by passion. I don't think there's many successful musicians that became musicians because they wanted to earn money. They did it because they enjoyed it. Is there any advice that you'd like to give any sort of young and aspiring musicians? Anything that you'd like to share?
I would just say, as much as you can, just get out and about. Go and support other young bands at their gigs. Go and talk to them. You will cross paths a lot of the time. You will play gigs with each other if you can sort of make the effort to go and say hi and go and support them. They, hopefully will support you in your, if you're in a band, come to your gigs, that sort of thing. Just kind of collaborate. I think sometimes when you're young, you can be so focused on I'm going to do this, we're going to do that, my band's going to do this. But actually, if you focus on it more on our bands are going to do this, our bands are going to do that, what can we do? Can we do a gig with you? If you treat it more like that, I think it's a much nicer environment to be in rather than a very closed off, like, this is our band, and it being sort of
like a clique.
Avoiding it being like feeling too cliquey or competitive. Because at the end of the day, I try to remind everybody, yes, you can write songs and you're very good, but that person will write totally different songs to you, and you will write totally different songs to them. So it doesn't matter. It's not competition. It's just supporting each other over a mutual kind of love of music, and actually connecting with other people is much more likely to do you good than competing with people.
Wicked. Well, I think you've been great. This has been very eye-opening, and quite inspiring too, actually. And thanks so much for joining us on our first ever episode on the podcast.
Nice one. Thanks very much. Thank you for having me.